Welcome to Fortune Forecast. I am Daisy, and you are in my book playlist. In this video, we will continue with the reading of Upton Sinclair's book titled The Book of Life. It was published in 1921, and it is in the public domain. If you just discovered this channel at this video and would like to catch up with the previous chapters, please visit my book playlist. All right, let's get started. Agriculture production discusses the land in the New World and how we foster cooperative farming and cooperative homes. Farming the land is a very ancient industry, and while its tools have been improved, its social forms have been the same for a long time. The worker on the land is conservative, and the Russian Bolsheviks who tried to rush their peasants into communism found that they had only succeeded in stopping the production of food. We make no such blunder in our new society. We have found a way to abolish speculation in land and exploitation based on land ownership while leaving the farmer free to run his business in the old way if he wants to. In our new society, we take the full rental value of all land which is not occupied and used by the state. The farmer and the city dweller alike own their land, in the sense that they have the use of it for as long as they please, but they pay to the state the rental value of the land minus the improvements, so they cannot speculate in the land or rent it out to others. They can only use it, and they can only pay for what they actually use. They may put improvements on the land with full assurance of having the use and benefit thereof, and they may sell the improvements, and the new owner enters into possession with no obligation but to pay the rental value of the unimproved land to the state. The farmer goes on raising his products, and if he wants to drive to town and deliver them to his customers, he may do so, but he finds it cheaper to market them through the great labor cooperatives and state markets. As there is no longer any private interest involved in these activities, no one has any interest in cheating him, and he gets the full value of the products, less the cost of marketing. If the farmer wishes to continue all his life in his old-style individualistic model of working the land, he is free to do so. But here's what he sees going on within a few miles of his place. The state has bought a square mile of land and has taken down the fences and established an agriculture cooperative for purposes of experiment and demonstration. The farm is run under the direction of experts. The soils are treated with exactly the right fertilizers for each crop, the best paying crops are raised, the best seed is used, and the best machinery. Workers of this new agriculture cooperative receive the standard wage, and they live in homes especially built for them, with all the conveniences made possible by wholesale production. Also, these cooperators live in a democratic community. They determine their own conditions of labor, being represented on the governing board, along with the experts appointed by the state. The farmer watches this experiment, at first with suspicion, but he finds that his sons have less suspicion than he has, and his sons keep pointing out to him that their little farm is not making the standard wage or anything like it, and moreover, the standard wage is constantly increasing, whereas the price of farm products is dropping. And here is the state, ready to direct new cooperative ventures, inviting a score of farmers in the community to combine and buy out the unwilling ones, and establish a new cooperative. Sooner or later, the old farmer gives way, or he dies, and his sons belong to the new world. So ultimately, we have our national agriculture system, in which all the requirements of our people are studied, and all the possibilities of our soil and climate, and the job of raising the exact quantities of food that we need, both for our own use and for export, is worked out as one problem. We know how much lumber we need, and we raise it on all our hillsides and mountain slopes, and so protect ourselves from floods and the denuding of our continent. We know where best to raise our wheat and where best to raise our potatoes and our cabbages, And we do not do this by crude hand labor, nor by the labor of women and children from daybreak till dark. We have special machines that plant each crop and other machines that reap it or dig it out of the ground and prepare it for market. A few days ago, I read a discussion in the Chamber of Commerce of Calcutta. Someone called attention to the waste involved in the current method of handling rubber. One consignment of rubber had been sold more than 300 separate times, and the cost of these transactions amounted to 3 times the value of the rubber. This is the only one illustration, and I might quote 1,000. If you doubt my figures as to the possibility of production in the new society, remind yourself that a large percentage of the things you use have been brought and sold many scores of times before you get them. Consider the cabbage, for which you pay 6 or 8 cents a pound in the grocery store, and for which the farmer gets, say, half a cent a pound. In this new world, the state has an enormous income derived from its tax and land values. It no longer has to send around men once a year to ask you how many diamond rings your wife has and to tax you on your honesty, if you have any. It no longer has to make its money by such lying devices as a tariff, therefore its moral being is no longer poisoned by a tariff lobby. It taxes every citizen for the right to use that which nature created and leaves free from taxation that which the citizen's own labor created. This kind of taxation is honest and fair to all because no one can evade it. The state uses the proceeds of this land tax in the public services, the libraries and research laboratories and information bureaus, in free insurance against fire and flood and tempest, and in a pension to every member of society above the working age of 55 or below the working age of 18. Of course, the state might leave it to every man to save up for his old age, but not all men are this wise, and the state cannot afford to let the unwise ones starve. It is more convenient for the state to figure that all men, or nearly all men, are going to be old, and to hold back some of their money while they are young and strong, in the certainty that when they are old, they will appreciate this service. Also, the state takes care of the sick and incapacitated and the mentally or physically defective. But we do not leave these latter loose in the world to reproduce their defects. We have in our new world some sense of responsibility to the future, and there is nothing to which we devote more effort than making certain that nothing unsound or abnormal is allowed entrance into life. The problem of the care of children is a complicated one, and our new society is in process of solving it. We look back on the old world in which the having of children was heavily taxed, in the form of an obligation to care for these children until they were old enough to work. Then the parents were allowed to exploit the labor of the children, so that among the very poor the raising of children was a business speculation, like the raising of slaves or poultry. But in our new world, we consider the interest of the child and of the society in which that child is to be a citizen. We decide that this society must have citizens, and that the raising of the future citizens is a work just exactly as necessary and useful as the raising of a crop of cabbages. Therefore, we pay a pension to all mothers while they are raising and caring for children. At the same time, we assert the right to see that this money is wisely spent and that the child is really cared for. If it is neglected, we are quick to take it away from its parents and put it in one of our 24-hour-a-day schools. We realize that the home is an ancient industry, even more ancient than agriculture, and we do not try to socialize it all at once. But just as we demonstrate to farmers that the individual farm does not pay, so we demonstrate to mothers the wastefulness of the single laundry, the single kitchen, the single nursery. We establish community laundries, community kitchens, community nurseries, and invite our women to help in these activities and to learn there, under expert guidance, the advantages of domestic cooperation. We convince them by showing better results in the health and happiness of the children and in the time and strength of the mothers. So, little by little, we widen the field of cooperative endeavor and increase the total product of human labor and the total enjoyment of human life. End of chapter. In this video, we will continue to the next chapter. Please do take a second, hit that like button. Thank you so much. And let's move over now to the next chapter, intellectual production. Discusses scientific, artistic, and religious activities as a superstructure built upon the foundation of the standard wage. Karl Kautsky, intellectual leader of the German social democracy, gives in his book, The Social Revolution, a useful formula as to the organization of the future society. This formula is communism in material production, anarchism in intellectual production. It will repay us to study this statement and see exactly what it means. Material production depends directly upon things, and as there's only a limited quantity of things in the world, if any one person has more than his share, he deprives some other person to that extent. So there have to be strict laws concerning the distribution of material products, but with intellectual things exactly the opposite is the case. There is no limit in quantity, and any one person can have all he wants without interfering with anybody else. Everybody in the world can perform a play by Shakespeare or play a sonata by Beethoven, and everybody can enjoy it as much as he pleases without keeping other people from enjoying it all they please. Also, material production can be standardized. We can have factories to turn out millions of boxes of matches, each match like every other match, and the more alike they are, the better. But in intellectual affairs, we want everyone to be different, or at least we want everyone to be free to be different. And if someone can become much better than the others, this is the most important kind of production in the world, for he may make over our whole intellectual and moral life. For the production of material things, our new society has great factories owned in common and run by majority vote of the workers, and we place the products of that factory at the disposal of all members of society upon equal terms. That is our communism in material production. On the other hand, in our intellectual production, we leave everybody free to live his own life and to associate himself with others of like aims, and we place as few restrictions as possible upon their activities. This is the method of free association, or anarchism in intellectual production. Our problem would be simple if material and intellectual production never had to mingle, but as it happens, every kind of intellectual production requires a certain amount of material, and every kind of material production involves an intellectual element. Therefore, our two methods have to be combined, and we have a complex problem which we have to solve in a variety of different ways, and upon which we must experiment with open minds and scientific temper. First, let us take the intellectual elements involved in the production of purely material things, such as matches and shoes and soap. Let us take invention. Naturally, we do not want to go on making matches and shoes and soap in the same old way forever. On the contrary, we want to stimulate all the workers in these industries to use their wits and improve the processes in every possible way. The whole of society has an interest in this, and the soap workers have a special interest. Our soap industry has an invention department with a group of experts appointed by the Executive Committee of the National Council of Soap Workers. All soap workers are taxed, say 5 cents a day, for the support of this activity. Likewise, the state contributes a generous sum out of its income toward the work of soap research. In addition to this, the soap industry offers prizes and scholarships for suggestions as to the improvement of every detail of the work, and at meetings of every local of soap workers, somebody makes new suggestions as to methods of stimulating their intellectual life, not merely as regards soap, but as regards citizenship and art and literature and human life in general. Our soap workers you must understand, are no longer wage slaves brutalized by toil and poverty. They are free citizens of a free society. Our soap workers, local in every city, has its own theater and concert hall and lecture bureau and publishes its own magazine. Every industry has its immediate intellectual problems, its trade journals in which these are discussed, and its research boards in which they are worked out. The ambitions of the young workers in that industry are concentrated upon getting into this intellectual part of their trade. Examinations are held and tests are made to discover the most competent men, and written suggestions are considered by boards of control. It is, of course, of great importance to every worker that the channels of promotion should be kept open, and that the man who really has inventive talent shall get not merely distinction and promotion, but financial reward, so that he may have time and materials to continue his experiments. This research department, you perceive, is a sort of superstructure built upon the foundation of our standard wage, and this same simile applies to numerous other forms of intellectual production. For example, our community paper mills turn out paper, and our community printers are prepared to turn out millions of books. How shall we determine what is to be the intellectual content of these material books? There are many different methods. First, there is the method of individualism. A man has something to say, and he writes a book. He works in the soap factory and saves a part of his standard wage, and when he has money enough, he orders the community printers to print his book, and the community booksellers to handle it for him, and the community post office to deliver it for him. Again, a group of men organize themselves into an association, or club, or scientific society and publish books. The Authors' League takes up the work of publishing the writings of its members, and the Poetry Society does the same. This is the method of anarchism, or free association, but there is no reason why we should not have alongside it the method of socialism. There is no reason why we should not have state publishing houses, just as we have state universities and state libraries. The state should certainly publish standard work of all sorts, Bibles and dictionaries and directories, and cheap editions of the classics. In this new world, our school boards are not chosen by businessmen for purpose of graft. They are chosen by the people to educate our children. So it seems to us perfectly natural that the National Education Association should conduct a publication department and order the printing of the school books which the children use. In the same way, anyone is free to write a play or to put on a play and invite people to come and see it. But like the individual farmers and the individual mothers of families, the play producer in our society is in competition with great community enterprises which set a high standard and make competition difficult. The same thing applies to the opera and to the concerts and to all the arts and sciences. You can start a private hospital if you wish, but you will be in competition with public institutions, and you can only succeed if you are a man of genius, that is, if you have something to teach, too new and startling for the public boards of controls to recognize. You try your new method and it works, and that becomes a criticism of the public board of control, and before long the people by their votes turn out the old board of control and put you in. That is politics, you say. But we in our new world do not use the word politics as one of contempt. We really believe that public sentiment is in the long run the best authority, and the appeal to public sentiment is at once a social privilege and a social service. What we strive to do is to clear the channels of appeal and avoid favoritism and stagnation. To that end, we maintain in every art and every science and every department of human thought endless numbers of centers of free, independent, cooperative activity, so that every man who has an inspiration or a new idea can find some group to support him or can form a new group of his own. This is our anarchism in intellectual production, and it is the method under which in capitalist society men organize in all their clubs and societies and churches. Devout members of the Roman Catholic Church will be startled to be told that there is an anarchist organization. But nevertheless, such is the case. The Catholic Church owns a great deal of property and speculates in real estate, and to that extent it is a capitalist institution. It holds a great many people by fear, and to that extent it is a feudal institution. But in so far as members of the church believe in it and love it and contribute of their free will to its support, they are organizing by the method which all anarchists recommend and desire to apply to the whole of society. Anarchist clubs and Christian churches are both free associations for the advocacy of certain ideas, the only difference being in the ideas they advocate. In our New World, such organizations have been multiplied manyfold and form a vast superstructure of intellectual activity built upon the foundation of the standard wage. In this New World, all the people are free. They are free not merely from oppression, but from the fear of oppression. They have leisure and plenty, and they take part naturally and simply in the intellectual life. The old, of course, have not got over the dullness which a lifetime of drudgery impressed upon them, but the young are growing up in a world without classes, and in which it seems natural that everyone should be educated and everyone should have ideas. They earn their standard wage and devote their spare time to some form of intellectual or artistic endeavor, and spend their spare money in paying writers and artists and musicians and actors to stimulate and entertain them. These latter are the ways of distinction in our new society. These are the paths to power. The only rich men in our world are the men who produce intellectual goods, the great artists, orators, musicians, actors, and writers, who are free to serve or not to serve as they see fit, and can therefore hold up the public for any price they care to charge. Just now, there is eager discussion going on in our world as to whether it is proper for an opera singer or a moving picture star or a novelist to make $1 million. Our newspapers are full of discussions of the question whether anyone can make $1 million honestly and whether men of genius should exploit their public. Some point out that our most eminent opera singer spends his millions in endowing a conservatory of art. But others maintain that it would be better if he lowered his price of admission and let the public use its money in its own way. The extremists are busy founding what they call the 10-cent society, whose members agree to boycott all singers and actors who charge more than 10 cents admissions, and all moving picture stars who receive more than $100,000 a year for their service. These 10-centers do not object to paying the money, but they object to the commercializing of art, and declare especially that the moral effect of riches is such that no rich person should ever, under any circumstances, be allowed to influence the youth of the nation. In this, some of the greatest writers join them, and renounce their copyrights and agree to accept a laureateship from some union of workers who pay them a generous stipend for the joy and honor of being associated with their names. The greatest poet of our time began life as a newsboy, and so the National News Vendors Society has adopted him and taken his name and pays him $10,000 a year for the privilege of publishing his works. End of chapter. All right, hit that like button. Thank you so much, and meet me at the next video for Mankind Remade.